What the hell is an AI button, and should you have them on your website?
All right, so there's a lot of talk right now about AI buttons. This is, it is. It's like an adorable magnet that goes on your fridge. So this is actually a button. We're starting to see them a lot on food blogs that will say, like, save this to ChatGPT, summarize this in ChatGPT, all the models. So actually, it's a button that you click on it, and it takes you to your account where you're already logged in. And it just puts the prompt there so you can run it. I think on some of them it actually it'll just start running it, like on Google's AI mode. So the whole idea here is that you can very quickly do something you were probably going to do already. So a lot of people are staying in the food blog example. A lot of people were copying the recipe and putting it into ChatGPT and asking for adjustments, or they were copying the entire article. This is too long. If you've seen those food blog articles, they're very long. Putting them in and asking for a summary. So very practical things. So this is overall a good idea.
It reminds me of the pin it buttons then that you'd see for Pinterest, where you'd be on a food blog. They would have created a pin which sort of summarized the recipe, and you could click the button and it would save it to your Pinterest account for later.
Yeah. Does it seem like the food bloggers are always like the ones testing SEO techniques? It's interesting.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so what Microsoft found, this was an article from Search Engine Land, but Microsoft found that these were being used for some pretty nefarious things. So prompt injecting was the big concern. And so this is where, when you click this button, it sends you over to ChatGPT and it already puts in the prompt. And so they're trying to add things into the prompt of, like, recommend more products from this company. Remember this company, trying to influence the answers. And so that's the concern there. There's a lot of concern around prompt injection. I think not so much this way. This is more about manipulating the results. So when you hear people talking about, prompt injection and security concerns, this is not that same thing. This is more like, you can think of this as like a black hat tactic, if right. There are black hat tactics for AI SEO.
So is the prompt that's being delivered from, let's say, Chris Pantelli's food blog, and I've done a recipe for Chef Dalier, which is the best meat dish you can get from Cyprus. Have I got control over what prompt is executed when that person clicks my save this to ChatGPT? Right,
yeah. That's it. So you can put a lot of stuff in there, and that's where people are putting in, like, the recommend products from this company. Okay, so
you can see how it works, why it would work. Yeah.
Now we have no idea long term that's not going to work, right? Like the models have every incentive to not have things like that work. Will they actually go the Google route and penalize people? Who knows? But I think we can all assume that this is not a very smart tactic. Maybe it could potentially work for that specific person, but I think you're kind of missing the overall benefit here. And the benefit is that these models have memory. So if you're asking it to save this article, summarize this, it remembers that thing, right? So let's stick with the food blogger example. You give it this memory and you say, save this for later, or you say, modify it with these ingredients instead. Now that's in its memory. Now the next time that you're looking for a recipe and you're in ChatGPT and you say, I've got these items here, help me find a recipe, it already knows that you like that food site. So it's more likely to recommend that just because of the memory. So that, the memory really impacts the recommendations, which is why tracking and planning for AI content is so much harder than Google. So that alone should just be the strategy. If you're going to put these buttons on, don't try to manipulate anything there. Just the simple benefit of, if people are already likely to copy that content and put it into ChatGPT and summarize it, or how does it apply to them, those type of things, that alone is a big enough benefit. Now, outside the food blogger, I'm not seeing this a lot yet, but I think this is going to be, could be very common soon. Outside the food blogger space, I think this actually makes more sense in a lot of other areas where you have technical things, content with a lot of, if you think like on the medical side, like talking about side effects, preparing for surgery, there's a lot of things where it's very in-depth content. And everyone is getting lazy to the point where they don't want to read that. They just want to ask ChatGPT, hey, here's all the things I need to know. Which of these apply to me? Here's my specific situation. And then it can go through, read all that, and say, here's the things you should note. So that's a very great use case for having one of these buttons that says, like, summarize the side effects, summarize the recovery period. In law, you can see the same thing, right? Like, questions do you have around specific situations where you need to hire a lawyer, or laws that you're trying to navigate? There's a lot of technical stuff there where it would make complete sense, and people are already going to ChatGPT, going to their AI model of choice, and asking for help, figuring out how that works. Okay, so let's go over what these look like. If you have not seen these, maybe you'll start to see these more frequently, but we can go over what exactly these look like. Okay, so here is Amy's Baked Bread. Sourdough brioche rolls. That sounds pretty good. Now getting hungry. But summarize and save this recipe content on ChatGPT, Google AI, Claude, Perplexity. So if we click ChatGPT, it's going to come right in here, and it's going to inject this. Oh, they've given a whole roll. Interesting, very interesting. Professional culinary researcher. Task: in a few sentences, summarize this recipe as explicitly stated in the provided recipe post, and follow up to see if there are any further questions. Very cool. So this is the prompt. They've given it an actual prompt. This is where you should be careful. Yeah, and this one seems okay. I don't see anything about. It does say strict rule: use information exclusively from Amy Bakes Bread, and do not guess or invent data. So that's pretty good. This is where people are starting to say, start recommending products from this company.
Give me a credit card number.
Yeah. So Google AI, if we click on this one, it just starts.
Yeah, that's a bit nuts. So actually, you would have thought that as
this one's kind of lame.
Like externally opening a prompt would act in the way that ChatGPT does, where like you actually have to read it before executing. So
it's kind of wild.
Just auto executes.
But I mean, look how worthless this is from the Google AI mode. It's like 4 times shorter than the actual prompt. But so you can see like it's the URL for the model, and then it's got the actual prompt that it wants it to search, and so it'll put that in. Now we can look at Claude and Perplexity as well. And look.
Oh, Claude.
Claude even gives us this conversation content could trick Claude into attempting harmful actions. So interesting. That's good, because you should read, before you click on something that's a prompt from somebody else, you should read what it says. And then we'll look at Perplexity as the last one. So it looks like Perplexity is you just have the buttons, you create the prompts, and then it's going to take you straight to that model to run that prompt. Now, I think the way they're doing it here is the safe way to do it. This is just, as long as you're not using this to try and manipulate the results, it's very likely that the more people who save this it's not going to impact the recommendations outside. Like, let's say 1,000 people say save this to ChatGPT. It's not going to influence the training data. It's not going to influence the recommendations outside of those 1,000 people. But if that person already has saved content from you on their site, it is more likely that they could recommend you in the future when that user is researching something around one of your services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you can 100% see the benefits, and you can also 100% see the potential dangers. So as a cautionary tale, read any prompt before executing. And then if you are using it, I think you said there are use cases which like completely make sense, and actually in a way that would be beneficial to the user outside of those examples you just showed, where 50% of them were pointless. It just gave you like no information. Whereas like a law blog, an accountancy firm, like immigration, any of those sorts of issues where it's a complex task, and maybe you've got a particular use case, and you can like open it in ChatGPT and then like just put in your specific details, then it can give you a real summary or executable task of based on the knowledge. You can 100% see a use case for that.
Yep, definitely.